President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed a proclamation for the Special Investigating Unit to probe the eThekwini Municipality's water and sanitation services. The SIU is to determine whether there was any maladministration, loss of public funds, or irregular and unlawful acquisition of services between January 2015 until now. Let's now get some reaction on this from the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Thami Ntuli. Premier, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. As the Premier's office, what's your reaction to this? And what's at the core of the complaint that the SIU would have taken to the President for this investigation that will solely focus also on water and sanitation in the eThekwini municipality?
Well, thank you for having me, Aldrin. Good morning to yourself and the viewers at home. Well, as the provincial government, we welcome the interventions made by the President of the Republic recently. Not only the one we're talking about of eThekwini, we've seen the one that is about Itala, SOC, and other government entity, and even some of the municipalities. It's quite a very important message to everyone who's either in government or private sector, that the government of national unity and government of regional unity will not, in fact, allow any wrongdoings to continue during our time. We welcome the intervention in eThekwini to ensure that on the water and sanitation program, we clean whatever may be needed to be cleaned after the allegations were made. And I must commend even people who come forward with the information that in fact will trigger an intervention by the SIU. Hence, we welcome in full the proclamation by the President of the Republic. You recall that he once even visited KZN in particular in eThekwini, wherein he received concerns and complaints regarding certain areas of service delivery, of which we are convinced that something now is being done by His Worship Mayor Baba, who's the new mayor, and confidence is building up amongst even the private sector due to the interventions that is making. However, it appears that some of the problems, they are much bigger. They require more time before they are completely resolved. Hence, we are working together with the Presidential eThekwini working group to ensure that we assist to support the Metro in resolving problems, even regarding the water programs, which for these days, there are some of the concerns after the restrictions. We are meeting, we are talking to try and ensure that we find a way that will resolve the problems.
Okay, I want to go back to this particular project that is part of this proclamation. In the annual report of the Provincial Treasury 2019-2020, the report states that this particular project will lead to the improved quality of life of those living in the informal settlements and a reduction in the association or associated health risk with regards to that. So what are the allegations in terms of a maladministration as well as fraud in relation to this project? And is it known whether the project itself was completed?
Yeah, in fact, I've seen the summary of the proclamation that it speaks to how services were acquired and whether the services are being delivered adequately as per what would be paid for. I think there are the sensitive issues which are quite very important that they ought to be clarified by the investigation, whether the allegations are founded or not.
Yeah, and again, going back to that annual report, the original budget for that project was at 244 million rand, and then the report goes on to say that the actual expenditure on that project was 451 million rand 671. which means that this budget has nearly doubled. As Premier of the province, how do you respond to issues of this nature where a tender goes out, the tender goes out with a specific amount, but when the project is being completed, the amount that is being spent on that project, like in this particular case, balloons up and nearly more than doubles?
Well, I think the SIU will be able to unveil the circumstances that led to such. However, it's concerning at a face value when you see whether because of poor planning or any corruption, maybe during the project may have resulted to the doubling of the amount. It's concerning, but we are vesting our hope to understand better the nature of the occurrences around such after the SIU has completed its work.
Yeah. And just a final one, Premier, as we conclude the conversation, a call that has been made by Action SA for the MEC for Health to resign or be recalled. What's your understanding from the MEC's briefing about the status of medication and availability of medication at various hospitals as well as clinics? Because they are saying that she lied.
Well, I'm not aware of the call, even of any correspondence to my office. I only heard from one of the interviews that something has been communicated to the media that something has been written to my office. I've yet not seen it. However, on the issue of the shortage of the medicine in the health facilities, I had a session with the MEC Smelane Mngadi, wherein they clarified to me as to what is happening. In fact, they gave a scenario that's how they are monitoring now the medicine, that when it's being procured from those who are selling the medicine, there is a register when it's brought to the pharmacy in the hospital. And then when it is at a certain point in terms of shortage, they're able to place new orders. But she also cited that there may be cases that they need to investigate of some of the government medicine sold to the private surgeries. So I said a full report, in fact, is the one that will give the clarity on to what is exactly happening. I'm yet to receive a full report on whether the problem is there or the problem is not there, or whether there are people who are continuing to do the wrong things to actually sell the medicine, which in fact cause the books to suggest that there is no shortage, whereas practically a shortage could be there. It's something which I'm waiting for the report from the MEC to give full details on such.
Yeah. So is the MEC's allegation that among some of the problems that the province is facing is state-procured medication being then sold off again to private surgeries, meaning essentially that it's being stolen and then sold to these private surgeries?
That is what she gave as a scenario, that there has been cases where in such will be a sin. Hence, to investigate the source of those government products needed to be actually done before it's concluded that really it was stolen or it was a different case.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. That is the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Thami Ntuli. This is following the decision by the President to sign the proclamation for the SIU to investigate water and sanitation services contract that was awarded back in 2015-2016, and then also now this issue around the shortage of medication in the province and the update that the Premier got from the MEC for Health.